Alex Eala did not need a third set, a match point, or even a finished second set to make a statement in Cincinnati. She needed less than an hour of tennis, 6 games in a row at one stretch, and a lightning storm to close the book on a defeat that had haunted her for nearly 2 years. What was supposed to be a rematch turned into something else entirely. A dominant, one-sided beating cut short not by her opponent's game, but by her opponent's body. And by the time it was over, a bigger name than the one across the net was already waiting in the next round. The setting was the Lindner Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio, host of the Cincinnati Open, one of the last major hardcourt tests before the U.S. Open. For Alex Eala, the Filipina who had spent the summer rewriting the ceiling of what Philippine tennis could produce, this was new ground. It was her debut at this particular WTA 1000 event, and she arrived seeded 17th, a career-high seeding at this level, carrying a world ranking of number 20. That seeding earned her a first-round bye, giving her a few extra days of recovery after a grueling run through the Canadian Open in Toronto, where she had reached the round of 16 before falling to former Olympic champion Belinda Bencic, 6-4, 6-love. Before that, in Washington, D.C., she had done something no Filipino tennis player, man or woman, had ever done. She won the Mubadala DC Open, her first WTA Tour singles title, and she did it by beating a string of major names, including a comeback win over Leylah Fernandez after trailing 5-1, before closing out world number 3 Jessica Pegula in a rain-delayed final that finished 4-6, 6-4, 6-love, waiting for her in the second round of Cincinnati. In what functioned as her tournament opener was Elena-Gabriela Ruse of Romania, a 28-year-old veteran who had reached Cincinnati by defeating Magda Linette, 6-love, 6-3. The name Ruse carried weight beyond the current draw. 2 years earlier, at the third qualifying round of the 2024 U.S. Open, Ruse had beaten Eala in 3 sets, 3-6, 6-1, 6-4, denying a then 18-year-old Eala her first appearance in a Grand Slam main draw. At the time, Eala was ranked outside the top 150, sitting at number 153 in the world, while Ruse was ranked 122. It was the kind of loss that does not simply end a tournament run. It ends a dream that had already been packed and prepared for the biggest stage in tennis, only for that stage to be taken away in straight sets that were not so straight after all. Ruse herself arrived in Cincinnati with a mixed season behind her. She had reached the round of 32 at her home country event, the EI Open in Romania, but suffered a first-round exit at Wimbledon against American Katie McNally. Her strongest recent result came at the Bad Homburg Open, where she advanced to the semifinals before losing to Karolina Muchov. It meant both players walked into their rematch off different trajectories, one carrying the confidence of a maiden Grand Slam breakthrough and a maiden tour title, the other looking to string together the kind of results that once made her the player who ended Eala's Grand Slam dream. What happened between that afternoon at Flushing Meadows and this second-round match in Cincinnati is, in numerical terms, one of the more dramatic rises in recent WTA history. Eala climbed from outside the top 150 to a career-high world number 20, a jump of over 130 ranking spots in 2 years. She became the first Filipina to win a WTA Tour singles title, and she did it in style, defeating Naomi Osaka, Jessica Pegula, Leylah Fernandez, Alina Svitolina, and Zheng Qinwen across that Washington run. Weeks earlier, she had become the first Filipina seeded at a Grand Slam main draw at Wimbledon. There, she opened with a straightforward win over Renata Zarazua, 6-1, 6-2, then survived a scare against Maya Joint, losing the first set before storming back 3-6, 6-2, 6-love. In the third round on center court, she produced the signature win of her season, shocking defending champion Iga Swiatek 7-6, 6-2. Before her run ended in the fourth round against Jasmine Paolini, she followed all of that with a run to the round of 16 at the Canadian Open. None of this was framed by Eala herself as some kind of guarantee. Speaking to reporters in Cincinnati about the momentum she carried from Washington and Toronto, she offered a more measured read on her own form. Momentum can help. A lot of matches can help with your confidence, but it doesn't guarantee anything, she said. That measured mindset sits underneath what has become one of the defining storylines of her season, a pattern some outlets have started calling her Revenge Tour. Since her Washington title, Eala has been working through a list of players who had previously beaten her, turning old losses into new wins one by one. She avenged defeats to Renata Zarazua, Maya Joint, Zhang Qinwen, Leylah Fernandez, Jessica Pegula, and Iga Swiatek during her march through Wimbledon and the WTA Open. In Toronto, she added Alicia Parks to that list, coming back from a second-set stumble to beat her 6-1, 4-6, 6-2. Avenging a first-round loss to Parks at this year's Australian Open, a match in which Eala had been blanked in the opening set before losing in 3. That win over Parks pulled Eala's head-to-head record with her level at 1-1 for the season. By the time she walked onto the court in Cincinnati against Ruse, the list had grown long enough that beating a past conqueror had stopped looking like a coincidence and started looking like a pattern of its own. Proof that whatever gaps in her game had cost her those matches the first time around were closing, one name at a time. Ruse became the next name on that list, though not in the way anyone expected. From the opening game, Eala looked like the better player by a wide margin. She dropped the first game of the match, then reeled off 9 straight, closing out the first set 6-1 in just 34 minutes and racing to a 3-love lead in the second. Along the way, Ruse won only 2 of the 16 points available on her own first serve in the opening set, a statistic that spoke to how little rhythm she was able to find against Eala's return game. Troubled by what appeared to be a right foot or ankle injury, Ruse called for a medical timeout to have it strapped before the third game of the second set. Play resumed only briefly. Dark clouds and a lightning warning forced tournament organizers to suspend the match entirely, with Eala serving at 30-love in the fourth game of the second set. When officials cleared the courts to resume play, Ruse did not return. She retired from the match, handing Eala a walkover into the third round. There was no completed scoreline, no final point to describe, and no post-match press conference from Ruse addressing the loss. What there was instead was a symbolic kind of closure. The win leveled Eala and Ruse's head-to-head record at 1 apiece, undoing, at least on paper, the outcome that once cost Eala her Grand Slam debut. On hard courts specifically, Eala now holds an edge in their overall professional win-loss records. Filipino outlets covering the match were unanimous in framing it as revenge completed, even without a finished set to point to, because the 6-1 3-love scoreline left little doubt about who was the better player on the day. Whatever door Ruse had closed on an 18-year-old Eala in 2024, the 21-year-old version of her had already kicked it back open before the storm ever arrived. Before the match, Eala herself had also touched on the occasion of playing in Cincinnati for the first time, telling reporters, "Yes, I am super excited to be here in Cincinnati for the first time. Hopefully the weather will get better as time goes by, but I think the facility is amazing." The broader tennis world has been paying close attention to how Eala has done all of this, and 2 well-known voices offered analysis in the days surrounding her Cincinnati run. Andy Roddick, the 2003 U.S. Open champion, addressed a common criticism of Eala's game on his podcast, Hugh and Andy. The idea that her serve, which sits outside the top 50 on tour for speed and win percentage, is a liability. Roddick disagreed, pointing to what she does immediately after that serve lands. Here's the difference. It's not just anybody goes out there, hits a slow serve, and gets away with it. It's Eala's ability to crush the next ball if you don't square up that return, he said. He went further in explaining why opponents cannot simply try to copy her approach. You can't take someone who doesn't have Eala's ball striking ability or ability to hit directionally to the corners and say, "I'm going to serve slower against Iga Swiatek." "Welcome to your death," Roddick said, on a separate episode of his show Served. Roddick had already made clear he counted himself among Eala's backers, saying of her Washington run, "She's not scared to play the top players." There's no doubt. Massive props to her. She's so much fun. Everyone in tennis should be cheering for her, right? Greg Rusetsky, the 1997 U.S. Open finalist and former British number 1, went a step further on his own podcast, Off Court with Greg, describing Eala as the one to look out for in Cincinnati and backing her to break into the world's top 10 by the end of the U.S. Open. Asked whether the tough section of her draw one that includes Amanda Anisimova and Linda Noskova, should worry her, Ruzetsky waved off the concern. Why should she care whether she's playing an Anisimova or whoever's in the section? Look at the people she beat to win Washington. It was world-class players from start to finish, he said. He also pointed to how she handled the physical toll of a busy summer. Then she goes to Toronto running on fumes and emotions and still wins a couple of matches as well. So, I'm not worried about it. She competes, she fights, she's so mentally tough that it doesn't matter who's in her way, Ruzetsky said. The win over Ruse carries immediate rewards as well. Advancing to the third round of a WTA 1000 event brings a prize check of $47,375.65 ranking points. The bigger reward is the opponent now standing across the net. Eala will face 9th-seeded Amanda Anisimova, currently ranked world number 10 and a two-time Grand Slam finalist who advanced by defeating Zeynep Snez 6-2, 6-3. It will be the first career meeting between the two players. Beyond Anisimova, the draw holds familiar danger. Linda Noskova, who has beaten Eala twice already in 2026, including a 6-2, 6-4 defeat in the Berlin semifinals, could await in the round of 16. A deeper run could set up a rematch with Jessica Pegula in the quarterfinals, the same opponent Eala beat in the Washington final weeks earlier. Iga Swiatek and Elena Rybakina loom further out as possible semifinal opponents, both part of a Cincinnati field that also features top seed Aryna Sabalenka, and includes 9 of the current top 10 players in the world. All of it is being treated, by Eala and by those around her, as preparation for the US Open, which begins on August 30th. Step back far enough and the picture becomes clear. 2 years ago, an 18-year-old walked off a qualifying court at Flushing Meadows, having just lost her shot at a Grand Slam main draw to a player named Elena-Gabriela Ruse. On a Saturday in Cincinnati, a 21-year-old world number 20, a WTA champion, and a Wimbledon fourth-rounder needed less than an hour on court against that same opponent before injury and weather made the outcome irrelevant. The scoreline was 6-1-3 love, and it did not need to go any further to say what it needed to say. The Revenge Tour rolls on, and the next stop is a first-ever meeting with a top 10 opponent in Amanda Anisimova. Is the Revenge Tour just the beginning of something bigger, or has Alex Eala already answered every question her past opponents once raised about her game? Can she really crack the top 10 of the world rankings before the US Open even begins? And if she does, what happens when the players left on her list start running out? For now, the only certainty is that Alex Eala's Cincinnati run continues, one round closer to Flushing Meadows, and one step further from the 18-year-old who once walked off that qualifying court in tears. Her date with Amanda Anisimova is next, and, with it, another chance to prove that this Revenge Tour was never really about the names on the list at all, but about the player Alex Eala has become since the last time any of them beat her.